Hello and welcome to another episode of AlphaTalks, turning questions into knowledge. And today, as our guest speaker, we have Mr. Vaishakh Surendran. He is a hospitality veteran with over 2 decades of experience in the industry and is currently working as a general manager at Ramada, Chennai. Welcome to AlphaTalks, Mr. Surendran.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Great. So, Mr. Surendran, my first question to you is how do you handle service standards for guests, especially high profile guests, and what special measures does Ramada take to keep them happy?
Well, I believe that every guest, irrespective of who they are, where they come from, should be a VIP. So we can't have any differentiation for basically for XYZ or based on because earlier we had people could be like VIPs or HNIs or could be any of those measures that you see. But then nowadays it's all about value for money. So basically, unless there is value for money, so if if you're paying something, and then and then let's say that two people are saying something, whatever they're paying for, it should be worth what they're getting for. So I if I make any discrimination in terms of what I'm going to do in terms of the service that I offer, it will be like no, it will not be great. So what I'm saying is that in the career we've handled a lot of HNI, a lot of ambassadors, film stars, politicians, and they've been there. So, but then again, those are again people whom we have to look after them like on a different level. But then when it comes to regular guests, basically we don't really want to have any differentiation that thing.
That's great to know. So, moving on to my next question, staff retention is quite a challenge currently in the hospitality industry. And so, how do you manage your hiring process, and how do you handle attrition in your industry?
You've been very right. In fact, it's been a big concern for the industry for a couple of years. In fact, mostly after COVID, when most of the hotels shut down, and people found alternate modes of income. So basically, they moved on. A lot of people became entrepreneurs, and so again, people have got a lot of options to not to come to hotels. So the only way what we do basically is that again we have to again go back to the basics, look after them, make sure that we offer the right pay, we offer right working conditions, we have a work-life balance. So a lot of things that we used to do earlier, in fact, the industry is changed and the outlook is changing, and we also learn a lot from the younger generation right now. So what we were probably 20 years back is not the kids are right now. So in fact, they're well informed, they are very tech savvy, so we actually kind of tend to learn from them. So you ask them anything right now, they always have an answer for you. So earlier, our generation basically, we would have to go back and refer and come back, and so we actually learned a different way. But then these people, they are smart, and so we are learning. In fact, even I'm learning at the moment. In fact, when I interact with somebody who's probably in their 20s or probably early 20s, the kind of knowledge that they bring along with them. Obviously, we have experience, but then they don't have experience, but they have the knowledge that comes along. So probably, when they, in the long run, it will be a great, asset for them with the kind of exposure they have and the intellect they have, and that will be a great thing. So one thing basically what we do is basically again, I have an open door policy. So I make sure that I am accessible. So I make sure that anybody from my senior HODs or probably to my rank and file, or even trainees for the matter, they come and they kind of interact with me, and I don't have any hierarchy that I keep. Anybody can come and talk, and especially with trainees, what I do is basically I try to involve with them and interact with them, and basically try to even expand their knowledge base. So I always encourage people to basically ask questions, and then observe, and and then write down notes, and basically and things. So unlike in industry where earlier trainees were treated like menial laborers, I absolutely hate that concept, and I really want to treat them as individuals, because they are the potential future of the industry. So they are coming for training to learn what they have to learn, and unless they don't learn, my objective as a manager is absolutely being failed. So that shouldn't be there, and start from there. So if you groom them right, they'll be great.
Totally agree. So, Mr. Surendran, since you mentioned training and you mentioned accommodation and a lot of other works that you need to offer now to increase the retention, has it also had an impact on the overall cost?
Yes, definitely, definitely. In fact, at the former property that I was working, not the current one. In fact, we had almost about close to 8 to 10 lakhs, as a extra. In fact, expense that we had only for accommodation and transportation because that property was located in a far-off location. So obviously, the accommodation was a paramount, especially for the ladies' accommodation. And you wouldn't imagine, there if I have to take names, in fact, we had the accommodation in Hirandani. That imagine an apartment in Hirandani, and probably,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I didn't have the good fortune of staying in those apartments, but my team did. So we had accommodation for the ladies, in fact, in about 14th floor and 20th floors, and so the basic thing is that though the rent is expensive, but then I have my peace of mind that nothing's going to be like wrong. So at least they have the best of facilities of the let's say the water or the the power cuts, and and whatever the safeties are the paramount thing. We used to also make sure that we used to give pick up and drop to everyone. So literally about 50%, 60% of the workforce had a pick up and drop. So we had about 4 or 5 dedicated cars for them. So, and then the pick up and drop starts from early morning, about 5 o'clock till about late evening, depending on the shift they have. The pick up and drop that happens that way. So that was an expense that we had. But then that property needed that particular thing. So so if you normally see like the payroll, in a normal operation should be between about 15 to 18% of the revenue. But then this particular place had, in fact, it was actually much more in terms of percentage. But then there are some stages where you cannot really compromise on those values because these are the things that you have to. Imagine if I had to put my those team, especially those lady team members, in a place where they wouldn't be safe staying, or probably they wouldn't be able to go back home after the work. Then what peace of mind would we have? When an issue happens. So why should you even foresee that particular, okay, there might be a possible issue, and why should we do that? In fact, before we moved on to this Hirande accommodation, that particular place, they were staying in a place where the water was bad because we were located in industrial area, so water was really bad. So it was actually affecting the health and the skin and the hair and everything. So obviously, they are my responsibility, right? So you have to look after them. So I think in those cases, basically, it's not good to be penny pinching, and you have to be really magnanimous in terms of what you do. End of the day, that will really pay back, and that's what I believe in that.
Yeah, yeah. I think as long as you're people oriented, your people will stay.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree totally. And my final question to you, Mr. Surendran, is for the people in the audience who are aspiring to be general manager like you, do you have any advice that you want to give to them?
I basically think you should be a jack of all trades. So don't restrict yourself to just one department or just one area. So keep your eyes and ears open. Work in as many departments as you can. So normally the trend is you be in either a rooms person or a F&B person, and then you move on. A lot of hotels have got sales people who become general managers, but I think it's very important that you know finance. You should know basically engineering. You should know HR. You should know basically technology. A lot of big companies have got a focus on IT right now. So that again is a very important thing. So going forward, unless you have your eyes and ears, in all departments, basically what works and how it works and how it's supposed to work, you will not be able to really control, your team. And if you don't have a grasp on your operations, your team can really walk on your head. So you shouldn't have that thing. So basically, in any department you're working, keep your eyes and ears open. Morning meetings are the best way to interact. See what others are saying. Look at situations. See others how they basically handle them, tackle them, and then so use your creativity and basically your experience, and take it from there. So I think gone are the days when you can be like I've been a general manager from a front office background, I've got a room background or a FME background. It doesn't happen nowadays. You have to basically know the game in entirety. And what also happened basically is that in a hotel, because nowadays unlike the days of past wherein the hotel is limited and manpower is limited, you have a lot of hotels right now. So the general manager usually is the one is the most experienced in the hotel, and the others are probably fresher, they're probably still in the probably in the infancy of their career. So their experience would be limited. So as a general manager, the whole onus is on to you to to kind of take charge of situation, basically make sure nothing goes wrong. So unless you have the grasp of the entire department of entire operations, you won't be able to really drive what you have to drive in the right way, and that's very important.
So anything else that you would like to add to our discussion?
Well, I think again going forward, I think technology is a way to go. In fact, any property that you look at, obviously human interaction is important, but then technology is a way to go, and you have to be tech savvy. And again, AI is something which really working on the tandem, and a lot of hoteliers as such basically don't use AI, a lot of things. So, but then when we interact with these new kids, or we interact with the new technology thing, even other day I went for a small online course on PowerPoint. In fact, what all you could do with PowerPoint with just AI. Basically, how do you make your things like things like Canva and things like like the other options that you have. You can even chat GPT for that matter. So all those things are really they really make your life a whole lot easier. And this particular thing is really creeping into industry, and instead of being afraid of and running away, I think you should embrace it, and basically, and that will really be the whole step forward. And then leave the technology. Basically, let technology assist you, and and your guest, and basically make sure that we go the right way. I think that's one thing that people should be do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. So thank you, Mr. Surendran. This was wonderful and very insightful, and I'm sure our viewers will also enjoy this. Thank you so much for taking the time out for this.
Pleasure. Have a lovely day.